Hello, this is Christina Barr. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about how things are heating up as far as the aggression toward, pro-life advocates. There were protests at Kavanaugh's house, at Robert's house, which they said that the anger, it was more intense at Kavanaugh's place. There were rumors that Alito and his family was moved. I don't know if anyone has confirmed that as of yet. That's what a couple journalists were saying. Jen Psaki decided to put out a tweet saying, hey, we're not cool with violence, but that's really not good enough after they're like, well, we don't have an official government position on people like protesting at judges' houses or the people protest and stuff like that. That's what she was saying, as we were going into the weekend, and now that it's erupted into some violence in Wisconsin. There was a fire at a anti-abortion office, and it's being investigated. And you have people who plan. How sick is this that you had pro-choice activists going into churches on Mother's Day, to fight for abortion, and you had people, women in the that dumb book, that dumb show. I just say it's dumb. I haven't seen it, but just Handmaid's Tale with the bonnets and the red coats or whatever cloaks, and it's just insane what's going on, and also the sort of rhetoric that people have associated with this this whole debate now. And it is really dangerous, in my opinion, and can get to a really dangerous place. And we'll talk about that today. Also, you have Kathy Barnette, who's inching up on Oz, according to polling, and in Pennsylvania for the Senate race. And man, I hope she takes it. I feel that Trump made a big mistake as far as endorsing Oz, and he could have had a superstar that he really, really endorsed. So she might pull it out anyway. And honestly, I think it'll be better for her maybe in the long run. And I'll explain why. But no, I don't think it was 4D chess. If there's someone out there who's about to say, well, it was 4D chess. It wasn't 4D chess. He just made a mistake. The man's not infallible. We know that. But it was quite the mistake. And we shall say why. Also, there's this really disturbing story about this trans woman who fathered a child and had some kind of a porn ring, and has been arrested and sentenced for using his daughter, apparently, or plotting to use a daughter. So that's sick. And it was him and I think at least two other trans people with him. So and another guy. So this happened in New Jersey. I don't know. So I read a couple articles about it to see if they landed in a woman's prison. I didn't see that. I'll have to dig into that a little bit more. But there have been cases like in Jersey where there are trans women who are men who have been in women's prisons. So man, it's just a sick story. And I keep thinking about this comment someone left on my page under someone left a nasty review, and someone said, "Hey, I wish half the stuff she was saying wasn't true." And I think about that comment often, because man, I wish stuff like this wasn't true. And I guess it's a good thing Ketanji Jackson isn't the judge in this case, because one of them I think got at least 25 years. But there were some people in the comments saying, just leaving gifts of wood chippers. And I got to tell you, I'm not against the death penalty. I know some people are. Why do you bring that up? I think it's obvious. Anyway, please go to blacktnews.com. Check out different articles I have on my websites. Please check out different merchandise that we have. Like, we got the cool goat hoodie. We got the I am not the victim you're looking for, be better, not bitter, all kinds of good stuff. Also have books that I've written. It can, if you go to blacktnews.com, hit the merchandise, there's a banner that'll take you to my book website. If you are in the Metro Detroit area, are you planning on heading up for Comic-Con this weekend, Motor City Comic Con? I will be there. I will have a table. I think I will be an artist alley, and I think my table's like IJ, or it's the no, it's I6 and I'm right next to my sister, so we're I6 and I7. So if you want to come and find us, and you can pick up a book from me, and you can pick up some cool artwork from her. It's going to be a really cool weekend. That being said, I won't be streaming live on Friday. I might have a whole show, but it just might not be live. And you guys can still comment and interact with each other and stuff like that. But I might do that, or I might just have like a shorter video that I might premiere or something. So I'll figure that out. You find out, but I don't think I'm just gonna have empty space hanging around the 4 p.m. ish area. I think I'll have something for you guys. That'll be pretty neat. So you don't have to go without me for the whole weekend. So, and you can come see me, and it'll be a cool time. I love going to Comic Cons and meeting readers, and writing's my passion. And I've written over 30 books. I have 15 that are published. Most of them are like really, really fun, kind of dark kind of stuff actually, but I have like my children's books are fun though. So I have children's books. I have like the middle grade chapter books, like Super Kid 2, that some of you guys have liked and have got for your kids and have said that they really enjoyed it. And I have historical fiction fantasy. I've got here's my historical fiction fantasy books. I've got paranormal romance. I've got contemporary fantasy romance stuff that's like supernatural. I got stuff about mermaids and werewolves and vampires and human queens are kind of like succubuses, and all kinds of cool stuff you guys can check out. I have a pretty vast imagination, so check out my stuff. And if you're going to Comic-Con, please say hi. Also, I want to thank Brighton Michigan Pack. I am in their studio. If I say something today that triggers you, I don't care. They don't care. It doesn't work like that, but I do appreciate that they like to uplift conservative voices like my own and all the work that they do in my state of Michigan. Also, if you would like to support blacktnews.com, please go to blacktnews.com/donate. I appreciate all that you guys do, and make sure that you guys like across all the different platforms, subscribe, follow, etc., and that you guys are sharing videos and all kinds of stuff as it goes, as I post stuff. And I really, really do appreciate people who spread the news about black tea. So you guys know that I like to start with something kind of funny, humorous at least. This one was like under Right to Bear memes on Twitter, and you got the Drake meme, and you got Trump here, MAGA was looking at the wall, and then you have Ultra MAGA sending a missile. And you may be asking, what does a missile have to do with anything? Well, the truth is that there was a story this weekend from former Trump officials and doing, I don't know, memoirs or whatever. And I think it was on 60 Minutes, had a big interview talking about, and one of the things alleged is that Trump wanted to send missiles into uh, the drug cartel's place and just destroy their crap, and allegedly like we didn't do it. And so people are like, that's like kind of madman. And some people were like, we literally do that all the time in other countries. Mexico's just too as far as in doing the drug thing. So it was interesting watching people debate this over the weekend, and I don't and it didn't really land as far as people, I don't know, people thinking that Trump was like especially crazy because he wanted to bomb the drug cartels and bomb their stash. But Trump did like respond to 60 Minutes about some of the allegations and different things that was said, and he responded, I think, to everything except when it got to the bombing the drug cartel. Like he was like, they're weak. I had to do the military. They're feckless and blah, 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 blah. Like Trump just going off about how wrong they are and how much they're a liar. But when it got to the drug cartel thing, it just said no comment. And I don't know if he typed out no comment, or his people typed out no comment, or he just didn't reply and they wrote no comment. But how it's presented is just kind of funny. It's like, did you, uh, you know, plan to bomb them? Like, no comment. and people are like, because you're not only, or is that an admission of, yeah, I plan to do that and I think it was a good job or a good thing. So I don't, it's just a little humorous to me. You can think it's not, but he's still a funny guy, man. he, he's different. He's definitely different. Let's jump to the news of the day. First and foremost, I want to talk about this race in Pennsylvania, and I already talked about how I thought it was odd how Oz was endorsed, and I've talked about some of his views in the past. He's talked about red flag laws. He's mocked pro-lifers, particularly on the subject of Texas's heartbeat bill, saying it's not really, if you're gonna have a standard heartbeat, not this like 6-week thing when it's like an acorn or something like to that degree. He said that on the Breakfast Club, and how he's really worried about some of these restrictions. And when he was on Fox News and asked about like pro-life, he would not like specifically just kind of nail it down. So those things are bad. One of the worst things was on his TV show, he did like have a trans kid episode, entertaining this idea of people, I know people believe that they're born in different bodies, but obviously you are either a boy or you are a girl. But obviously people have gender dysphoria. But Oz, played into what is now the phenomenon going on right now. So there's disturbing things on that side. So people are very concerned about him actually being a conservative. But Kathy, again, just like came on so strong at the debate. If you don't know, here's her. I played this before, but I'm gonna play it again. Her coming for Oz about being pro-life.
Have you changed your opinion over the years? If so, what has changed your mind? You have 1 minute. Ms. Barnette, you're first.
Thank you. Whether this was a leak or whether it was a tactical operation, we will soon figure out. But one thing is clear. I am so very grateful that our nation is now having a very important conversation, and that is one of the most important conversations, that is about life. I am the byproduct of a rape. My mother was 11 years old when I was conceived. My father was 21. I was not just a lump of cells. As you can see, I'm still not just a lump of cells. My life has value. And that is one of the reasons why it was so very disturbing when I saw Mehmet Oz running for this particular race, when I've seen him on numerous occasions, and specifically at the Breakfast Club, saying that my life was nothing more than a acorn with electrical currents. I am wondering if the good doctor has now since changed his position on that. My life is valuable, and so are the many lives that find themselves in the womb of their mother, whether in the womb or towards the end of that life.
Dr. Oz, you have 30 seconds to respond. That was directed at you, sir.
One of the toughest endorsements you can ever get is from your mother-in-law. And my mother-in-law is an ordained minister. She wrote a lot of the pro-life literature in Montgomery County, where we live, and she certainly understands that I'm pro-life. As a heart surgeon, I've operated on small children, a few days old, and witnessed the majesty of their hearts pounding blood, even though it's ill, because I'm operating on them, through those bodies. I would never think of harming that child, or even 9 months earlier, because life starts at conception.
All right. Mr. Bartos, now you're...
Well, he had to kind of change his tune from other takes that he had. And people noted like that sounded like a fake response, because if someone's like, hey, you said I was like an acorn, and he's like, my mother's a minister and she endorsed me. Is that the way that you would respond to that question? I mean, I assume that they had like a prepared thing to say response if people brought up like the Breakfast Club thing. And it seemed prepared, but ill prepared by folks who, I don't know. um, don't take the issue obviously as seriously as Miss Barnett. So she came ready to go. She attacked the big one, and she also attacked McCormick as well. But I about him and Oz being uh kind of new world order kind of stuff, as she put it. She just like went for it, and she really made a place for herself, because now there was polling that came out, and mind you, that Oz was endorsed by Trump. Trump had him at his rally. I probably should have like got a clip to show you guys, but it was some of his stuff that he said was pretty cringe. He was like, "Yeah, we're gonna we're going to the border and clean the border," and we're just like, "Clean the border." Get your Clorox and your bleach, sir. Scrub down them walls. Get it disinfected. What does that mean? Um, I'm assuming she said clean instead of secure, but it was so cringy. He's like, "Yeah, I thought you might like that, yeah," and there were actually some people booing Oz at the rally as well. So people really like Trump. People love Trump. Hey, heck of a guy. He's not infallible. He's not infallible. And there's some people went around interviewing folks in the crowd, and they're like, "No, Kathy's my girl." And apparently she's the person for a lot of people, because Oz, who spent way much more than her, because I mean these other guys are like I think up in the millions of dollars of what's been spent in the race. But she's in like the hundreds of thousands, and she's at 23.2% right now. So she's very close. She is very, very close. Who knows? She could already pretty much be there, because Dr. Oz, he does have high name ID, but he also has high unfavorables. So that matters also when you're when you're thinking about who is electable. You have to think about how unfavorability is going to play. So Kathy I also played this before, but I'm going to go ahead and play it, like the thing that she said kind of closing out of the debate, that really, people were retweeting with fire emojis and all kinds of different stuff.
I am you, Pennsylvania. And like you, I believe this is the greatest country that has ever existed. But like you, I believe our country is in trouble. I believe that the America that allowed me to claw my way out of dire poverty is about to come to a close. Listen, this time you do not have to hold your nose and vote for the lesser of two evils. I am in a statistical tie for first place, so voting for me is not throwing your vote away. Listen, go to my Facebook page at Kathy Barnette for Senate, and you will see exactly what I'm doing today that I will amp up tomorrow after this race. I have been going, and you will see me in rooms full of black people changing their voter registration from Democrat to Republican. You will see me downtown in Chinatown. They are mine. You will see people ushering me in front of a room full of Amish people, with them introducing me as someone with their values. Not only do I have a grasp on our own base, but I can go into every nook and cranny and take the votes that we need in order to really beat Fetterman in the general election. So let's go do this.
I love the confidence. Chinatown, they are mine. They are mine. She just went for it. And I when I played this before, I talked about what's needed today, that there's so many people who think they can just pump so much money into a race and win. And yeah, money makes a huge difference, but you need money to make up for enthusiasm on the ground and volunteers on the ground and people willing to do the work. And sometimes you cannot close that gap. And especially if you can't get into markets where they're not going to hear your message. So she's willing to actually do the legwork and talk to people who think differently. That is a great thing. Unfortunately, I think in the past in Michigan, we've had examples where people weren't willing to go the distance as far as doing that outreach. But if she's willing to do that and is doing that and can persuade people, then she's the one who should do it, especially since she's right now in near first place, and she doesn't have all that millionaire cash herself. She doesn't have the name ID like Oz, but she is an American first type of candidate. And I really think Trump missed big time with not endorsing Kathy. Just she's from a small town. She, in her words, clawed up her way from poverty. She served in the military, and she's someone who is the like poster child that the left will use for an example to uphold abortion. Now, even though rape accounts for less than 1% of abortions, people bring it up all the time. They're like, what about the girl who was sexually assaulted? And then they'll go a step further and say, well, what about the minor who was sexually assaulted and then gets pregnant? Her mother is that person that happened to. But a lot of these, I don't know how often this happens. God forbid it happens at all. But this is a scenario where this actually happened. This isn't a hypothetical. Oh, this actually happened to a woman, and her mother said there's a beautiful video like that I've seen live action put out, but she's also put out this footage and stuff for her campaign videos. That her mother said it wasn't a choice. It's not a choice. It's a human being. It's a life. And her family helped her. Her mother helped her get through it, and she had her child, and her child could go on to be in the Senate. Join Tim Scott. Is another black Republican in the Senate. And all this going down at the time when Roe v. Wade could go down. And the national spotlight could be on this story and this woman and their testimony. And he just missed it. He missed it. Oh gosh, no discernment on that one, man. I'm talking about like spiritual discernment. Just for Oz, and I've read the endorsement on the show and read the letter. To me, it just doesn't make any sense other than I don't even know how personable they are to each other and really know because it didn't seem like I don't know how close knit they are and their association besides being both TV celebrities and stuff like that. Because the letter itself, the endorsement didn't seem very too personal either. I don't know if there's just like, hey, he has name ID, he can win, and he's a household name, so he'll be able to get some switchover votes. But sometimes conservatives are so like petty, they're like, I'm not voting for that person, they're not a real conservative. Now, someone left a comment on my Facebook page when I posted the poll or whatever, and they talked about like, well, at the end they can get in and they're they're gonna vote for the party, and that's true for most people who are Republicans, even people who you don't like Mitt Romney or McCain or trying to daughter of Cheney, Liz Cheney. All those folks, they go in and they vote Republican like in lockstep with the party like 95% of the time. But when it gets to like something dire where you need people to be 100%, that's when everyone's ticked off. That's when everyone's angry. When it's like someone like Murkowski and Collins voting for Levin to be appointed as assistant health secretary. Now, they could have got through anyway and just had Kamala Harris break the 50-50 tie. But I'm like, now we have this person who's the health secretary, who, by the way, did a crappy job in his state when he was a health secretary. They intermixed COVID patients with the elderly, and he got his mother out. So they knew it was bad policy. So this person they put as a assistant health secretary, and now they're pushing hormones and surgery and puberty blockers on children. And Rand Paul tried to ask Levin, like, are you for that? And they're like, well, it's a very nuanced science, and I look forward to talking to you, if I'm confirmed. I'm like, that's not how it's supposed to work, bruh. And I was really mad at Republicans. Like, y'all can't stop it apparently, but y'all better at least let them, all the Democrats, just be the ones to vote that through. But nope, you had some of our side break away. And stuff like that is what ticks you off when they break when they're not in there like the 99% of the time. So yeah, Oz could get in there and vote like Republican like 95% of the time, but then when Oz like, breaks away, let's say if they wanted to at least have federal abortion protection or something, up until like 15 weeks or something, which the Mississippi case is 15 weeks, but they decide that's what they want to try to do with some kind of law, which Democrats really want it further than that. I mean, their position is pretty much no limitations right now. Um, I'm hoping he would vote the right way. But if he didn't, then people would be ticked off. So it would be better if there was a conservative who people feel pretty solid in. And Kathy is just it, man, from what I could see. From what I could see. So um he just missed it there. And if he had endorsed her, I think she'd be running away with the race, but it's probably for the best, because if she pulls it out, you're still going to have a lot of people, MAGA people, who are supporting her anyway. Republicans who are to back her anyway, and support her anyway. Maybe there's going to be some angry, bitter, like high rollers who will, I don't know, start packs and try to bring her down or whatever. It is what it is, but she'll get obviously more donors as the only person in the race going into the, general election. And you'll still have a lot of people who are excited. She's someone who can energize people to vote for her. She's willing to go on the ground and make the case to people who don't think like her. And she has a very compelling story. Sometimes when you may have a person who's not as well known as other people, you may have a person, a candidate who doesn't have as much money, but that doesn't mean they can't fundraise just because they have less money. But the capability may be there, especially as you give them more national attention. They have the opportunity to perhaps fundraise more. But it should be on people to try to, when they find a really good candidate who does have electable qualities, to push them to go the distance, as opposed to getting someone who they feel will maybe be an easier time, who may not be with the values 100%, but they're like, well, they have money and they have good name ID. That doesn't mean that they're not going to have high unfavorables, and that doesn't mean that the people are going to be willing to march on the streets and hand out the lit and do the door knocking, all the kind of other stuff that you need for a campaign. So people, they're so gung-ho about how they feel about particular candidates that it's really, really stunning. But again, let's look at that poll one more time. She's so close. She's so close. She's so close. So, and that's like a legit pollster. I'm gonna take off my logo so you guys can see it. That's a legit pollster, so we'll see. We will see. Oz's team appears to be flipping out a little bit. There was a tweet that she had. I think that people are misconstruing a bit, and I think they're trying to paint her as if she could have been like pro BLM. And I don't know if that's a hit they're expecting to work because she's black. But she shared a video from 2020 when she was complaining about people who were BLM and the people who were for defunding the police, and going on like a tearful like 10-minute rant. So that didn't work out well for them either. I'm crossing my fingers, but if she didn't get the Trump endorsement, but she's going to be able to make the case that she is her own person, and that she got there on her own merits, and not because she got Trump's golden pat on the shoulder. So I think going into the general in Pennsylvania, I think that'll probably help her. The Trump's endorsement in a primary, Republican primary, yeah, that can really make a difference, for sure. But being someone who didn't get the golden tap from Trump and ends up persevering and saying, I'm here because I had a good message and people were still excited about me, that's going to be great for her, I think. I really do. So, we'll see. We'll see. Okay, moving on. Biden has a problem, and I don't know how much the news is going to make it to a problem because that's their boy, and they like to cover for them. And they're not going harsh on Psaki, but it is a problem, especially if things continue to heat up in our country as far as rhetoric, as far as anger toward the Roe v. Wade decision. Now, we don't know for sure if it's going to come down, but of course, the opinion Alito gave was leaked allegedly because there's some people on the left who have a conspiracy theory that it was someone on the right because they wanted to lock conservatives into this opinion. I think that the theory that makes more sense is that there was a leftist clerk that was concerned about this being the opinion and they leaked it so there could be legislation forced through, or there could be some kind of intimidation on the justices to change their minds or whatever. But whatever the case is, the leak is disgusting. The White House has not really condemned the leak. I don't know, I'm not aware of any major Democrat that has condemned the leak, and they're like, the leak's not important, we gotta look at what's really important is the decision. I'm like, no, this is not normal for someone to leak a whole entire opinion, and it's something that should not happen again and should have never happened. And we need to find the leaker, which Roberts, put like the marshal on it. We'll see what happens. There's not a huge pool of people to go through. And they can actually like see where this stuff was printed. Ted Cruz broke it down on his podcast with Michael Knowles, how much security goes into this stuff. So hopefully the leaker will be caught, and they will at least probably at the very least be disbarred. And if they, lie at all within the investigation, then there could be prosecution afterwards. But hopefully their career will be over. But we need to find out who did it, and they need to be punished. People do not need to be rewarded for these kind of tactics, but you have not seen condemnation. And now you have folks who are actually leaked or put up online and stuff about where the justices live. So people protested at Roberts' house, and people protested at Kavanaugh's. And the White House, I played this before with Jen Psaki, and I guess I'll play it again, but they didn't really have much to say as far as condemnation about that.
How about yesterday? So just about moving forward, these activists posted a map with the home addresses of the Supreme Court justices. Is that the kind of thing this president wants to help your side make their point?
Look, I think the president's view is that there's a lot of passion, a lot of fear, a lot of sadness from many, many people across this country about what they saw in that leaked document. We obviously want people's privacy to be respected. We want people to protest peacefully if they want to protest. That is certainly what the president's view would be.
So he doesn't care if they're protesting outside the Supreme Court or outside someone's private residence?
I don't have an official U.S. government position on where people protest. We want it, of course, to be peaceful. And certainly the president would want people's privacy to be respected. But I think we shouldn't lose the point here. The reason people are protesting is because women across the country are worried about their fundamental rights that have been law for 50 years, their rights to make choices about their own bodies and their own health care are at risk. That's why people are protesting. They're unhappy. They're scared.
They're unhappy. They're scared. That's why I ain't doing this now. Not your body, someone else's body within your body. You don't have a right to kill people. And abortion's not mentioned in the Constitution. Therefore, it really should not be a federal issue. It should be like thrown back to the states. The idea that you should be able to have an abortion because of right to privacy. Can you commit all sorts of murder if you conspire with your doctor to do it? Like, come on. And it's not murder because it's legal technically, but it is homicide. So I hate when people have conversations about abortion and just like ignore all humanity of the child in the conversation. But that's the only way to make your argument sound more legit, when you just ignore that. But she's like, well, just want to just totally shift the point about people being upset rather than the actual just how hard is it to just condemn people trying to intimidate these folks? She said there's no official position. We talked about this last week, but there's is a literal official position. I'm trying to intimidate judges and stuff about their opinions and rulings and stuff is actually illegal. So there's that. Um, and of course, there's the opportunity for it to turn violent. And so there was a group, an anti-abortion group that was torched. There was some arson over the weekend. And this is from CBS News. Arson investigators were probing a fire Sunday inside the headquarters of an anti-abortion group, Wisconsin Family Action, where someone had spray painted a message outside of the building. Madison police spokesperson Stephanie Fryer told the Wisconsin State Journal that the fire, reportedly shortly after 6 a.m. Sunday in Madison, was suspicious in nature. Federal officials and the Madison Fire Department are helping with the investigation. No one was injured, and officials were still working to determine how much damage the fire caused. Police told CBS News in a statement that arson investigators are working with the fire department officials to determine the exact cause. And police told CBS affiliate that a Molotov cocktail, which did not ignite, was thrown at the office during the incident. A separate fire was also started. It wasn't immediately clear who vandalized the building, but the message, "If abortions aren't safe, then you aren't either," was spray painted on the building. It appears a specific nonprofit that supports anti-abortion measures was targeted, Madison Police Chief Sean Barnes said in a statement. The president of the lobbying group, Julianne Appling, said she considers the fire a direct threat against us, given that it happened just a few days after a draft of the U.S. Supreme Court option was leaked, suggesting the court may soon overturn Roe v. Wade decision that was legalized abortion in this country. She said people could have been hurt if they had been working at the office at that time. So that's awful. And you also had people who were going into churches yesterday. Mind you, it was Mother's Day. These pro-choice people protesting in churches, interrupting them on Mother's Day. On Mother's Day. Here's a little bit of an incident.
Hey, you get off of him. You're not attacking anybody.
You're attacking me right now. You started attacking me.
No, you're going towards our preacher.
All of these people watching.
You can't go towards our preacher. Get out of it. It's not. You turned it into something else. I have to keep you away from the preachers. You have to keep you away from the preachers. You got to get away from respecting women. You want to come in and attack them. Respect us.
Respect us.
Respect us.
You want to respect attacking us.
As you guys want respect, we want respect too.
We want respect.
I understand that.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
I do.
You're disrespectful. You know
I
what?
promise you, I understand you completely. I understand. We are with you. But
You have to get your hands up.
This is so disrespectful. Wow.
Please.
This is such a falsery. You even practice Christian things when you're out there. You can't attack our preachers. All the preachers have been out this.
I have a right to my choice.
Get out of here!
Oh, I'm sorry. My mic was off. I said it's amazing how you can have a whole entire conversation about being pro-life, and you can have all these facts and data, and you could say, hey, it's a life at conception, scientifically we know that, and then go into it has a right to life, and you have a right to life, but you don't have a right to an abortion, et cetera. You can go to all these different talking points, and then someone will get angry and say, "Hey, keep your God out of my uterus," even though you might not mention anything having to do with religion. But these people believe in taking their protest into the churches. It's just crazy. One person who retweeted out this video said, kind of like sarcastically, "Oh, I have no idea why Hispanics are voting Republican." Um, they keep doing crazy stuff. They're gonna keep pushing people out of the party, man, out of the left. Because there's definitely a lot of moderate people out there. Someone in the comments had pointed out that, and I don't know what poll they're really referring to, but they said that they said the Hill reported that 58% of Americans want federal law making abortion legal. You still don't have the right to do that. There is no constitutional right to abortion. I mean, I guess you could also always try to amend the Constitution and have it say that. Um, you could try that for sure. However, uh, there's a lot of things that people wanted to be legal back in the day that weren't ethical, that ignored the rights of particular individuals out of convenience for the people who wanted to ignore their rights. Um, Obviously, I'm going to say slavery. So just because some people want it, and just because you can argue that it's popular, doesn't mean that it's should be done. What you have to look at people's rights. You have to look at people's rights. Darn it. Um, Also, a lot of these people who want abortion, um they vary on where they want it. So the Democrats are pushing that it's just a woman's choice. They don't want any sort of limitations. Like Jen Psaki wouldn't say it the other day, when pressed about it by Peter Ducey. He's like, his opinions have changed over time. So what does he want? And she's like, he said it many times. He's like, 9 months, like, is there any limitations? She's like, he's made his opinion very clear. Like, no, it's not very clear, because he said it's shifted. But if you won't just say, hey, give a time frame, because they don't want to give a time frame, because they're just saying it's a woman's choice, or whatever. So if you just say it's up to the woman and totally about her bodily autonomy, then you are arguing that a woman should be able to do it up to 9 months. But most Americans do not agree with that. Majority of Americans don't want any kind of abortion after 15 weeks, which is exactly what the Mississippi law was gunning for. So when people are polled and they say that they want Roe v. Wade to stay in place, that's because a vast majority of Americans have no idea what it does. They don't know what it is. So if vast majority of Americans don't want it past 15 weeks, then you would have to strike down Roe v. Wade. Roe v. Wade prevents that. Roe v. Wade and other sort of case law that's happened. So that they were arguing about viability and all sorts of other stuff when they were arguing this case. So no, majority of Americans don't support Roe v. Wade. A majority of Americans apparently don't understand Roe v. Wade. And a lot of people just want Roe v. Wade because they want to protect abortion, but it's wasn't a good ruling. It just wasn't. People on the right and the left have agreed upon that, and people just want it in place to protect abortion. But if people really want it so bad, they can make their case on a local, state level. Now, in my opinion, I'm not gonna pussyfoot with you guys. I don't want it legal anywhere. I don't think it's a state issue. I think you have the right to life, and people shouldn't be able to vote whether you have no rights or not. And we should have equal protection under the law, and that should apply to the unborn. And you shouldn't be able to deprive someone of their rights unless they have some kind of due process. So that's where I'm at. Slavery used to be a state's rights as well, and eventually it was abolished. So I'm for full abolishment of slavery. Gone. I mean, not slavery. Well, yes, slavery, but abortion. That's where I'm at. I'm glad about the Roe v. Wade thing being overturned. If it indeed ends up being overturned, it's not official till they actually vote for it and the stuff is actually published, right? So there's a long way to go. But these justices are being harassed, and I would appreciate it if the White House just came out with a very, very strong statement condemning it. Now you saw Jen Psaki's kind of lackadaisical sort of response, but she did give a tweet today. I believe this was to yeah, that would have been today. POTUS strongly believes in the constitutional right to protest, but that should never include violence, threats, or vandalism. Judges perform an incredibly important function in our society, and they must be able to do their jobs without concern for their personal safety. That would have been cool to say on Friday, Jen. I don't know. I'm sure she probably got questions about it and comments and stuff today, but Joe Biden needs to come out very strongly against this stuff. But you know what? What Biden didn't come out very strongly against protests and riots and stuff in 2020. There was a question, I think it was Chris Wallace asked him, like, have you like, because he was like, I'm the head of Democrat Party, and he's like, have you called like Seattle, and or like some people like officials there and just like, ask people to do more and just kind of cut it out. And he's just like, I'm a private citizen, man. What? And just kind of like at one hand, he was like, I'm the head of the Democrat Party, but then it was like, nope, why would I do something like that? Why would I try to interfere and stop this stuff? And it was just really low marks for Biden, and Trump didn't do very well in that debate either, but they didn't do anything to really kind of quell the anger and the vandalism, and there was death during that time. As a matter of fact, Kamala Harris, egged it on, and Biden said some stuff, especially after Wisconsin was at Jacob Blake, that was very inflammatory. So it's like they egg this stuff on when it suits them. Um, but can you, like, if you just use like maybe even a tenth of that outrage that you like push toward people on the right, like he said the other day that the MAGA group was the most radical group I think ever, like in American history, and people are like more radical than people who've actually bombed the Capitol and in the KKK, and was it the Weather Underground who like bombed the Capitol? Was that the name of those folks? Um, like more radical than like anyone? Seriously? Seriously? But he has such manufactured outrage toward the right, but you can't just come out and say with 100% certainty and just a little bit of vigor and say, hey, we condemn intimidation of the justices, and we should respect whatever decision that happens, and then you can take your case to the ballot box. You can at least do that. But Biden needs to come out very strongly and condemn this stuff. I do have some video of some of the protests at the houses. This one I believe was Kavanaugh's. Yeah, well, let me do the Roberts one. Let me do the Roberts one.
Keep abortion safe and legal. You don't care if people die. You don't care if people die. You don't care if people die.
Yeah, coat hangers and all kinds of stuff. Which, by the way, why would people do the coat hanger thing? If people were going to do that, when they get their hands on some of the abortion pills that have been out there. By the way, the thousands of women who died before Roe v. Wade, those numbers were a lie that groups like NARAL put out. There weren't like thousands of women dying every year. From there was a time when women would die from childbirth abortion, and abortion's legal, illegal, and legal. But there was a big turnaround, not because of Roe v. Wade being legalized, but when you had more advancements in drugs. Also, if women are in a state where they are so desperate that they would be willing to hurt themselves, which I would consider them to be near suicidal or suicidal, I don't think it's I don't think we have a abortion problem in our country. I think we have a mental health crisis, and a lot of these people need to be helped. And I don't think it's incompassionate to take them to a butcher to kill their child. I think there's other ways that we can probably help people in those sorts of situations, and I think we need to talk more about prevention and making good choices for ourselves. But it seems like all people really want to do is protect this institution of abortion. It's so wild to me. Rush Limbaugh used to say that leftism is a religion and the sacrament is abortion. And I don't know, it kind of seems like you're right when you show up in robes and cloaks in churches. It kind of seems like that.
We will not go back. I see you, buddy. We will not go back. We will not go back. We will not go back. We will not go back.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if Alito was moved or not. That was the rumor going on. I don't know if someone confirmed that or not. But that's what the journalist was saying, or a couple of verified people on Twitter. One of the people. This is something about one of the women who planned protest at Kavanaugh. The Washington Post did a story. The first time she had an unplanned pregnancy, she was 18 and in London. It was a summer of her freshman year at Trinity College at Hartford, Connecticut, and she saw the different paths unfold before her. Her mom, a devout Catholic who believed life began at conception, understood why Wooden Holly wanted to have an abortion, but said she could not go with her to the doctor. She went alone. I would have been ill-equipped to be a parent, Wooden Holloway said. It was an easy choice, and it was a painful choice. Okay. On her 21st birthday, June 11th, 2003, she realized she was pregnant again. She was living with her parents in Georgetown and considered what her life would look like with a child and her first serious boyfriend. That lasted about 30 seconds, she said. I was not ready. On her, I was not ready to be a mom. 2.5 weeks later, she took the abortion pills and stayed at her boyfriend's apartment for the weekend. When she became a parent in 2005 with her first child, Patience, she felt different. She was choosing to be a mother. In 2015, she gave birth to her second child, Jack. I have these two great kids. I am so lucky and I am so grateful for them. I still don't regret my decision. So, this woman, and a lot of women who are so pro-choice are women who have made the choice. Um, and I think some of the fighting is to justify what they did. Which a friend of mine on TikTok, she did a really good video um, about her abortion and how she actually used to be one of these people who would argue with pro-choicers, and she started talking about it because someone had left a comment about it's hard to feel sympathy or sorry or I don't know, be kind, I guess, to some of these people who are laughing about killing their babies and stuff. So she replied and she said, "You know what? Um, I used to be one of those people who would be adamant about abortion, and and she put up an internal wall to protect herself because no one wants to like feel like, yeah, you killed your child. Like no one likes those phrases, those words. That's why they don't say them. That's why people get angry when you call it a baby, and when you people's like, oh, it's not a child. I'm like, a child just means like it's below like the age of maturity, and child is in like relation to the parent. Like I'm in my 30s, but I will always be my mother's child. So yeah, a fetus is definitely a child. It's the mother's child. Like it's not wrong to use that language, but it sounds too human. It sounds too personal. So she didn't like to be reminded of what she did, so she would um retaliate in a way that she felt could hurt pro-lifers, and would be like, yeah, I don't regret it, yeah, it's a clump of cells, yeah, so when you see these people say this crazy stuff, a lot of them are young kids, and who knows if even some of these people are sleeping around saying this kind of stuff. Some of the crazy stuff that you see maybe on TikTok and stuff, there are people who pay people to do stuff like that as well for some god forsaken reason. But there are people who lash out because they are trying to protect themselves from what they do. A lot of these advocates are people who have done it themselves, and they are trying to kind of cope in that sort of way. So I keep thinking about Jesus, saying, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." So still try to have some of that compassion when you bring this to the argument, but um someone saying it was an easy choice and it was a painful choice because she was in college, um and just wasn't ready at the time, and she had like parents who I'm sure would have helped her through it, um and then sleeping around with her boyfriend and didn't feel that she was ready at the time. It's all these things are things that you can personally help. All these things are things that women can personally help. So these are the sorts of activists who are, deciding to rally around these judges' homes. Um, Again, we're not supposed to try and intimidate these people, these judges, from a decision. It's not legal. It's not legal. And Roe v. Wade was never a good ruling. So again, you're gonna have to make that case at the ballot box on a local level. But it's should not be upheld. It's a bad legal standing, and most people are aware of that, who look into the law and the history and all that stuff and actually care about the Constitution, but they just like Roe v. Wade because it upholds abortion. And that's it. There was this other really crazy tweet. This person like deleted their account. The After the story about the headquarters of the anti-abortion group being vandalized. More of this. May these people never know a moment of peace or safety until they rot in the ground. And this is a reporter, a verified reporter on Twitter. Now, she deleted this tweet, and I believe she ended up deleting her account. Probably couldn't stand the heat, knew that she had tweeted in anger. But that's vile. Really, really vile. Some of this rhetoric coming from the left and the pro-choice crowd, like the hanger situation, like the drawing of that. There was this one TikToker that I replied to, but she has over 1 million followers. This older woman in the UK, and they're saying like, "You guys are going to kill women. You're going to kill women." It's not true. It's not. It's just blatantly false. Blatantly false. And my reply to her was you are making a stunning admission that a lot of these people are mentally unwell, and we need to help them if that's really the case that you're making. But it's just not true that it would lead to all these millions of women dying. It's just not true. But this sort of hysteria reminds me of the sort of rhetoric that Democrats were saying about healthcare. They were saying that Republicans are killing people because of healthcare, because of Obamacare or whatever, because they're trying to dismantle it or voting against it or whatever. Maybe you're too young to remember, but way back when Obama was president, too long ago. I know we have very short memories, but there was a crazy person. People referred him as a crazy Bernie Sanders supporter. Not that it's Bernie Sanders' fault. I'm not blaming it on Bernie Sanders directly anyway. I mean, this man is responsible for what he decided to do. But Bernie is one of the people, who had some pretty hot rhetoric, and there was lots of Democrats with lots of hot rhetoric using language like Republicans are killing people because of healthcare. And he came to a baseball practice with several Republicans because they were like having their congressional baseball, game, and so Republicans were practicing, and he opened fired on them. And according to Rand Paul, he was yelling, "This is for healthcare." Rand Paul has been through a lot for politics, man. Attacked by his neighbor in a BLM mob, people yelling about Breonna Taylor, not knowing that he tried to get rid of no knock warrants. But anyway, that's what he was yelling as he's opening fire on these people. And the only reason why you didn't have a bunch of Congress people dead is because Steve Scalise was one of the players. And Steve Scalise had, because of his position, had Capitol Police that were with him. And the Capitol Police person, I believe, was injured. And Steve Scalise almost did not survive. He had to have surgery. But it was touch and go. People were very concerned whether he was going to survive. And this is over a rhetoric of a crazy person emboldened to do this because people were saying that Republicans were killing people because of healthcare. Again, this is obviously a crazy person, but I don't want to continue to inflame people to the point of someone doing something this harmful. If you're saying people are literally, Republicans are going to kill millions of women, it's going to lead to millions of women. It's not true. But that is some very inflammatory rhetoric, dangerous rhetoric. That's quite a thing to blame on 5 people. On 5 people. So it really needs to stop, and the president needs to come out very strongly and condemn that sort of language, condemn the hatefulness and the anger, and we need to have grown-up conversations about this topic and be honest about what it is. But people don't want to. I had a conversation with Haley Stevens, and she didn't even want to pinpoint when she thought the right to life should begin. Because when you pinpoint that stuff, the argument begins to break down. Unless you're just for 9 months. But that's where people are pushing. But who wants to say that? Who wants to say that? To openly just say no restrictions. Because that's not where most Americans are at. But the leadership is so radical right now. So we don't need this sort of hot rhetoric. Do you guys remember Schumer when he said this?
I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price. You won't know what hit you if you go forward with these awful decisions.
So that was not recent, but when it happened, Roberts was pretty ticked off when that happened. So I don't know how all the justices feel right now with the rhetoric surrounding this and then the leak of the opinion. If I was Kavanaugh and Alito, I'd be very concerned about my families and Barrett, Gorsuch, Thomas. I'd be concerned. But our president, I maybe he'll prove me wrong and come out with some very strong words, very strong language condemning all this stuff. But I really doubt it. It's just not in him. Not for the right. Not for the right. Last thing before I move on, I want to play this video of Bill Maher. He was talking about abortion and things he just didn't know.
All right, so people hate talking about abortion, so let's do it. I don't want to do it, but it's the big issue, and we got to do it, and this is what happened. And, you know, it's interesting because until this memo was leaked and we found out that now, unless something very unforeseen happens, the Supreme Court is going to undo Roe versus Wade after 49 years, we haven't really been focusing on it. Or maybe I'm projecting. I guess I haven't been enough, because I learned things this week, because this put it on the front page, that are pretty basic things that I did not know about abortion. Like in Europe, the modern countries of Europe, way more restrictive than we are, or what they're even proposing. If you are pro-choice, you would like it a lot less in Germany and Italy and France and Spain and Switzerland. Did you know that? I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
That's right. Okay. I learned most people who are pro-life are women. Did not know that.
That's pretty wild to me. That is pretty wild to me that people wouldn't know that. This guy has a political talk show that he has for a very long time and doesn't know that. Now, granted, that's maybe a topic obviously he doesn't care too much for. I mean, I think it's a topic he cares enough for to have an opinion on being pro-choice about it. But not to know that other countries have way more restrictions than the US. And it is pretty remarkable. Again, most Americans don't even know what Roe v. Wade does and don't understand that 15 weeks where most people don't want an abortion after that, that law can't exist the same time that Roe v. Wade does. That's why it ended up at the Supreme Court. And if you have the perception that most men are pushing the pro-life movement and not most pro people are like lifer people or women, if you just thought this was men out here trying to control women's bodies and stuff, maybe that explains some more of the fantastical, silly rhetoric that you hear. But it's just not grounded in reality. And lastly, I complain about rhetoric and the leading to millions. And you might be saying, well, pro-lifers say that they're killing millions of people. We have killed millions of people. That is actually rooted in reality. The only way to ignore that fact is if you ignore the humanity of those who were killed in the womb. But life does start at conception. So unfortunately, that is a fact. And if we could have fact-based conversations, and maybe we could actually get somewhere productive in this country on this topic. Last thing I want to talk about, and I'm sorry, this is like an awful news story, and I don't want to leave you out with a major bummer, but this is pretty amazing, and I just wanted to share. It's so awful. Transgender mom is jailed for 25 years for heinous, cruel, and depraved crime of forcing daughter 7 she fathered, which I don't really respect the gender pronoun thing. You guys know that, but it's in a story, so I'm gonna just read it. So it's just gonna I'm just gonna get through the story essentially. She fathered to take part in child porn. 3 accomplices are also sentenced as prosecutor brands foursome a quartet of darkness. A transgender mother who forced the 7-year-old daughter she fathered to engage in child pornography at her New Jersey home has been jailed for 25 years without parole, along 3 other accomplices. Marina Vols, previously named Matthew, was sentenced on Friday at Somerset County Superior Court alongside another transgender woman, Ashley Romero, 28, previously named Adam, and the 2 other offenders, Sean Allen, 54, and Alicia Gineco, 21. Vols, 32, ran a family-owned transgender pornography production studio specializing in amateur BDSM and taboo fetish content from her Corbin Lane home in Franklin Township, according to acting prosecutor Anne Marie Taggart, where she allowed her accomplices to sexually abuse her young daughter. In the involvement of all 4 defendants was made clear in a string of group messages in which they discussed their plans to abuse Vols' child. Somerset County Assistant prosecutor Brian Stack told Judge Peter Tober at sentencing on Friday the quartet orchestrated a vortex of darkness that snuffed out the young girl, adding the group were incapable of redemption and had not accepted full responsibility. Judge Tober, meanwhile, said the crime was said heinous, cruel, and depraved, and commented the child endured abuse involving a basement cage, neck collars, and a variety of sex toys. The judge sentenced Voles and Romero to 25 years without parole, while Allen received 12-year sentence, eligible for parole after 10 years, and Janeco was handed a 5-year sentence. Voles, Romero, and Allen will be subject to lifetime parole supervision upon release. An investigation by Somerset County Prosecutor's Office Sex Crimes and Child Abuse Unit found Voles managed to win custody of the child in 2018 before taking her away from her mother's home on the West Coast and bringing her back to New Jersey. Once in captivity, the young girl was subjected to sexual abuse and filmed on multiple electronic devices. Gosh, this is so sick, and I know I already read it, but I just can't imagine being the mother of this child. First of all, I wonder how he even got custody, because men don't just be getting sole custody. But knowing that this story is out, knowing what this person did to your child, it's remarkable. It's disgusting. It's depraved. And as I said earlier, as I led with this story, I do not know if they're all going to women's prisons. I read a couple articles covering this, and they mentioned they're going to prison, but I cannot see or have not seen whether they are going to go in with the men or in with the women. And in New Jersey, they do allow for the mixing of that. So I would assume they're probably going to be intertwined with the women women prisoners. This is so sick and depraved. Ben Shapiro had a great tweet today that I said it's so true that it hurts. And just scrolling really quickly so I can say it correctly. I put it on my Facebook. But we don't protect our kids like we ought to. Of course, there's people who do a very good job, but he said we are a society that insists we treat adults as children and children as dispensable. And of course, we see that with the abortion debate. We see that with the obsession with with gender identity and so on. A lot of that is especially teachers who feel that they have the right to teach it to your kids, and it's really a lot about affirming their own worldviews. But for someone to do this to their own child, to let another group of men help you do this to your child, I keep thinking about that comment someone left on my page, said, I wish half the stuff she said wasn't true. Gosh. I'm sorry to let you know. But this is like a breaking news kind of thing going around today. And it's a sick, sad world. The TV show Daria, they used to have, it was a cartoon that came on MTV. And there would be this news segment called Sick, Sad World. And this definitely fits. This definitely fits. Well, that's it. I've had enough today. I've had more than enough today. So I'm going to call it a quits now. Thank you for watching. Please go to blacktnews.com. Check out different content that I have on my website, different merchandise that I have on my website. Again, if you're going to be in Metro Detroit area this weekend, you can catch me at Motor City Comic Con. I do plan to still like have something streaming on Friday, so don't worry about me not being here. I won't be live, but something will be playing. So make sure you watch it and you share. Please make sure that you check out different merch that I have, like the "You Are Not That Special." Got the cute black tea mugs and all kinds of stuff. The "My Money, My Business" shirts. And if you enjoy what I do here, please go to blacktnews.com/donate and consider supporting. God bless you guys, and go watch a happy movie. I know or something to cheer you up. I'm sorry I left you up on a downer. Really sorry. God bless.